Others, he's and she's. Welcome to my anime podcast. Welcome one, welcome all to this latest edition of my anime podcast. This latest edition of the 3 episodes test. We are back at it again with these 3 episodes. And this time around, it is my choice. It is Yata's choice. I am your host Yata, and joining me in the cast today is our 3 episode co-host, Noraku.
Hello, Weebelows.
Last time on the 3 episode test, we broke into and sampled a retro classic Trigun, and we deemed it worthy of completion, or at least worthy of carrying on. This time around, I'm going to do something a little bit different, and that will be Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Now, I'm definitely throwing Noraku out of his element in this one. We are doing a KyoAni classic from back in 2017. This one is one that is close to my heart in terms of podcasting because this was the first show I ever reviewed solo-wise on the podcast. I'm not even sure if it's still up.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if... No, it is. It's our second ever episode. Yeah. So if you want to go back and hear some rugged and raw stuff, and I mean raw with a capital R. Like, looking back at it now, the memories, I guess, were nice, but the quality of the review was less. So during that review, I was quite effusive in my praise of the series. And I recently checked out season 2, which aired early on in 2021, and it still holds up for me. And also, fun factoid, one of the characters in the series is on my Mal top 10 favorite characters. I'll let you guess, maybe after we do these episodes, which one I did choose. So again, like you, the expectations for me going in are basically to see whether I enjoyed it as much this time around as I did the third time of asking. I think This is the third time I've seen it now, yes. I'm not 100% sure because I think I might watch it back to back for the review, because it was the first one. I was going to be quite diligent in it. If that is the case, which I think it was, that was so back to back so quickly that I don't think it really would have affected my overall enjoyment of the series. Now we're talking about some 4 years later, things are going to be obviously different in terms of, like, there's enough time between me in 2022 and me then in 2017 when we were first starting. Seen a lot more anime since then, and I have shows that I would maybe put on a higher pedestal, but this one I still think is a top tier slice of life and a good example of what KyoAni does best. For me, what are your expectations going in? What do you know about Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid?
The only thing I know about it is the anime avatars and the memes and the background pictures I've seen. When you're browsing for wallpaper or desktops, as one does, it's very obvious when you come across her. She's got a big dragon tail. So I have seen pictures. This is definitely a series that I would have been like, oh, I hope those people who like that enjoy that. And I would have never have watched it. So I'm looking forward to trying to get out of my comfort zone to see how this works.
I'm hoping you get out of your comfort zone. I'm stating that as the intention right now. I said the stated intention. It was never stated. Now it has been. It's historical fact now. It's on the podcast. Okay, that's cool. Last time I gave you 3 predictions about what I was expecting from Trigun, and I felt pretty happy with it.
But I believe you got some Mal synopsis help first.
You want a little taste of the synopsis? I can handle that for you. Again, the Maori Red Team come through. No Anime News Network BS here. We're getting a real synopsis. The issue here is this is a lot of episode 1 recapped, but
I'll go with that. But do you want to give me some details about the show, maybe?
Yes. Okay. Well, I already said it is from Kyoto Animation. If not the premier studio in terms of animation quality in the industry, at least an S-tier studio. It aired from January 12th of 2017 to April 6th of 2017. So it literally finished airing 4 months before we started the podcast back in 2017. Oh, what a different time it was. I have no strong memories of 2017 whatsoever, except for the fact that it was a good year for anime. And that was the year that we started the podcast. Other stuff happened too, I'm sure they are very memorable to other people. Not quite as memorable as the last 3 years.
Yeah, probably not.
Oh, what a happier time it was!
Indeed.
It was directed by Yoshihiro Takemoto, and Naoko Yamada did episode directing and storyboarding. She is formerly of Kyoto Animation fame. She recently moved over to Saru, which is Masaki Yuasa's studio, to work on her latest series, Hiki Monogatari. She's a bit of a, how would you say this? She's like got quite a rabid fan base, I would say, in the anime community. She's the creator and director for K-On!, which is, if not the most famous Kyoto Animation property, one of the most ones.
Sure.
Famous for, I guess, starting off the moe boom, or probably at least the most famous moe anime. That was a thing that existed in the early 2010s. Pour one out to moe. It was nice while it lasted.
Okay, these are going to be my 3 predictions. 1, it's going to be cute. Number 2, it's going to be wholesome. That's going to make my heart grow 3 sizes, just as the Grinch had. And number 3, I'm going to say she's going to join some kind of wacky household. She's the wacky maid. She's the Mary Poppins of the household, full of rambunctious kids, and that's my prediction. So it's going to be cute.
I feel like I want to get
wholesome?
something more from you there.
Okay.
Because I think you can go cute and wholesome as being a prediction.
Okay, cute and wholesome.
And like the name is Maid, right? It's in the title. She's probably going to work on as a maid. And maids generally work either, well, in Japan it could be a cafe, right? But generally they work in a household.
What I meant is by Mary Poppins is that she's going to be a magical addition to this house. So like she really turns it upside down with her niceness and her tricks and her, the Julie Andrews things that she does.
Give me an out there story prediction.
There will be a mom dragon that will ask her to come home. How dare she spend her time with the humans?
Okay, I wouldn't say it's necessarily that out there, but we'll take it.
Well, okay, it's not syrup. That's true. I'm trying to get something right.
Okay. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
All right.
We're going to hop into it right now. See you on the other side of episode 1. We'll be back for our reactions to episode 1, and then we'll do the meat of the episode after we've seen all 3. Here we go. And we are back. Episode 1 is in the bag. We are at our customary pit stop after episode 1 before we hop into episode 2 and 3. This is sort of the react section where we react to the first episode, and that is in the bag. So I'll throw it over to you because you're the noob.
Man, it's almost like somebody took moe acid. Like it moved at the speed of, I don't know, warp speed through this. The animation's very nice. It's very cute, but what is going on? Like, she's attracted to the girl for some reason. She's like licking the clothes. The jiggle physics are going off. I don't know. I'm a little awestruck, I guess, would be the phrase.
I guess you need a few more episodes to let it marinate, get your head around it a little bit more.
Like, I didn't expect her to be like a full-sized real dragon. I thought she was just going to be some kind of like... Anyway, I'm a little awestruck.
Well, awestruck. We'll take it. Yeah, the first episode is quite a lot packed in, but I think that's just like the nature of the show in general. To me, a lot of the presentation feels almost like sketches, sort of like thrown together, and that's kind of the show. Like right now, this first episode, it's very centric on Miss Kobayashi and Toru, the two main characters in the show. But once other characters establish their sort of points, we get the cutaways to what they're doing, right? That's like the nature of the delivery, I
was going to say, it's very memeable, I guess I would say. That already looking at this, I would be like, oh, that's a meme right there, right?
Thinking back to like my appeal, I derived from it from the first episode on original viewing was the sort of meta otaku-ness of it, where it's quite relatable in a way, I guess, when they're critiquing the blasé-ness of the French maid costume,
the gothic and the Lolita.
Yeah, I thought the animation was pretty stellar. Maybe it's just like glowing by contrast,
Sure.
1998 Triguns 2017's Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. It's almost 20 years apart, so the animation quality is going to be 20 years ahead, but it does look good. Even in 2022, I think it still looks pretty excellent. There's a couple of nice little flexes in terms of like what they can do. I don't know, I find it very endearing. It's risque enough where it's not just like too safe and too saccharine to be believed. That's like one of the things you can level at certain like other KyoAni shows, like K-On! For example. It's heavy on the cute, but it's also quite safe. Where this one, there's some gags that are not necessarily just like, oh, look how cute it is. Like,
D for Dragon.
Yeah, D for Dragon. Yeah. That is an iconic line, by the way.
Oh, wow, I picked it up. There you go.
Also, like the Fafnir cameo. Always appreciated. Solution to all problems is to kill them all. Kill anyone you suspect. The Putin Manifesto.
Oh. Yeah.
There we go. We just got political. And that's where we'll end.
Just took it down a notch there. All right. Well, hopefully the next 2 episodes will pick us back up then.
Yeah. So we're going to hop back into episode 2 and 3, and we will see you on t'other side of the rainbow. Or in another galaxy where she's fighting the Crusades or whatever she was fighting. We'll find out.
カッパです。もうやめられない止まらない佐護城は木桜大吟醸。脇場のフェンス 肌こる向こうへ光の差す声何事もなく無事に着いたならそこが俺たちのガンダ音忘れちゃいけない Come on! デイジーゴーゴー
And we are back. 3 episodes are in the bag. It's donezo. We have finished our 3-episode test, our 3-episode journey into the world of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. So I'll toss over to Naraku. Did you get more of a bearing on things? You said the first episode was a bit disorientating with the amount of stuff that was kind of thrown at you.
I mean, it did pick up a bit more rhythm. Like there was actually like a story arc and stuff. That being said, it still is very hyper-kinetic sometimes. Well, that's one of the things I find it very strange is that the tone of this show has such a drastic shift. In 1 minute, it's almost like a sketch, like a Mad TV sketch. And then the next thing is a slow piano and it's very cute. And, you know, like, for example, like that piano part where they're on the couch. And she's, you know, she's like, oh, it's okay if you're noisy. And they're all sleeping together. And it's like, oh, it's so cute and nice. And then the next second is like a vignette. Like it's suddenly it's a bam. And there's like a little joke and it's very sparky. So the tone of this show is very shifty sometimes.
Yeah, I can see that. As I said, it doesn't feel, it's not, the packaging is more, not so much like A to Z.
Yeah.
So much as like it's an A to B to F to G, you know? Where, as I said, I do think it's kind of resembles a sketch. That might be just like the nature of like the source material.
Maybe.
Like I said, it feels like it's kind of like a staple in certain kind of shows.
Sure.
Especially like these kind of like wacky, kind of like pop culture-y, otaku-y kind of shows where it's like, it's a lot of it like, oh, there's like a setup, we'll have the gag, kind of like Family Guy.
Yeah,
the random cutaways, but
I
like
can see that.
a little bit more cohesive. Like the jokes are like kind of like, even though they're quite random at times, they're a bit more earned than they would be in a traditional Family Guy kind of cutaway, where it's just like arbitrary at times,
or like a pop culture reference.
Yeah. So we got 3 episodes. Story is like, it meanders kind of like at a slow pace, but like things happen. You know. I guess the big 3 is like introduction of 3 separate dragons, or 4 dragons over the course of 3 episodes. That will slow down.
Well, I can guess from the song how many dragons there are going to be.
There's one more.
Yeah.
And that will be the Avengers Assembled, essentially. So your predictions at the beginning of the episode were, 1, that it was going to be wholesome, and there was another... Cute. I definitely think it's cute and wholesome. 2 was that she was going to like Mary Poppins things.
That was not at all.
No, but perhaps it's... Well, no, it wasn't really, no.
No, I thought she was going to move into like with a family, right? Or like a group of guys, not just like...
A drunken loner?
Yeah, just this random office lady.
I gotta say, I actually like Miss Kobayashi a lot as a character. She's not your standard anime fare. Actually, she's not your standard fare in terms of most media in general. Kind of like a socially awkward kind of like loner. Or not loner, that's not the right word, but like kind of just like a 9 to 5, get drunk, living your own life, I guess. Not like protagonist.
Yeah, she kind of reminded me of a nicer version of the lady from the Recovery of an MMO Junkie, in terms of kind of like stuck in her rut to some degree. But like, you know, but she wasn't like, you know, I don't think she was, you know, she was doing what she was. She had friends, she had a colleague that she was hanging out with, and she seemed decent in her life. Right?
Yeah, so she was definitely not unhappy, or at least that's what we got.
Depressed.
So far. Yeah. I would say she's a maid otaku. I don't know if you picked that up.
Yeah,
every time she got drunk.
Yeah, and I got it from the outfit in the closet, right?
We can hop onto the technicalities of it right now, and I wanted to single this part out for praise. I think the voice acting, again, it's 20 years later, but I think the level of like the VA, if you compare it to like the female cast of this show to the 2 girls who did Trigun,
right?
I thought it was a bit of a step up. I actually really like the performance of both Toru and Miss Kobayashi. Miss Kobayashi's got a very like deadpan dryness, which is kind of weird because like I for some reason, I don't know if this is like I haven't noticed it before, but for some reason I think unconsciously I would almost associate that kind of delivery and that kind of like monotone, that kind of low style with more like a male performance. I think she does quite a good job of doing that. Like, probably, I don't know if she's necessarily the best performance, but it's very, very strong. In terms of all of the actors that we've seen so far, I would say there's like 3 standouts, which would be Kana, Toru, and Miss Kobayashi. Fafnir and the co-worker and Lukoa. We haven't had enough of Lukoa yet, so to really give like an accurate judge on her. But I would say from a sound perspective, as in like I can't really think of the music too much, honestly, in terms of like OST, where Trigun I felt like a really big part of the series. The OST here is not memorable at all, but the sound design in terms of like, they had a battle sequence in episode 2, and I remember thinking to myself that it sounded really, really good. It wasn't overpowering like some anime can be in terms of the sound design. Like, I actually like that really like loud, like full-on sound, but I know it's very divisive for a lot of people. They kind of like had it on a solid 7 here when they were on the battle sequences, but sound design was strong, and the acting was very, very good, and I think the animation is really, really good. Like, I kind of wonder if they were like given, hey, you're going to give you like a 3 episodes of like battle anime, some battle shonen, to do what could KyoAni do when they're not just doing like, you know, like kind of
in
their own little kind of cute, like obviously Violet Evergarden was phenomenally animated, but again, you never had that. Like, I think this, oh sorry, I hit the mouse. I think this, and there's a couple of sequences in Shinibyo where they like get to do kind of like mock-up versions of what a shonen, or what KyoAni would do with a shonen, and those rare glimpses are like, oof, quite impressive. When she was like pulling out the black chakra ball, which is like, I think that might have been an homage to Naruto, because that's literally what he does and the teeth are the same when he's fighting against pain. There's a lot of references, by the way, buried in there, in case you guys didn't. Well, I didn't catch all of them, but there's a few that every so often.
I certainly didn't.
Yeah, so I think that in terms of animation and sound design, I would say it's a very, very strong outing, as always, with KyoAni. And as always with KyoAni, I don't really care for the OP, but really like the ED. That's another thing that always seems to happen with KyoAni shows for me.
Well, I too like the OP is unoffensive, but neither is it memorable. I liked the sound design. I can't say I really paid attention to that much, to be honest. It didn't pop for me. Like, it was fine. It didn't I didn't notice it, so I don't know if that means it's not great or it's not really bad, right? Because I didn't notice it. I thought Mrs. Kobayashi's actress did her VA was really great. The 2 dragons, Toru and Kana, I didn't particularly find those voices outstanding. They did a fine job. It's just one of those things of, once again, they didn't have, maybe it was just a lack. I haven't seen enough yet, but in the shots that they were given, she didn't have to do stuff, or they didn't have to do stuff that really sold anything to me, to be honest. So, you know, I don't think it was, like, once again, nothing bad. Nothing was bad in this show. And some stuff was outstanding. I really liked, because of the little sketch nature of the show, there's lots of little intercuts with like birds or like landscapes, and a lot of them are done in kind of like an artsy style, rather than like an anime
it's
background.
Like an impression, like watercolory.
Yeah, and
I like it.
I really enjoyed that as well. I also enjoyed kind of them walking, like when they're coming back from the market. I really enjoyed that shot of them walking up the street. So, you know, the animation was great. But, you know, as far as the rest of the stuff, character design is... okay, here we go. I don't like the character design, to be honest. I don't like how the dragon looks. I don't like how the dragons look. And I didn't particularly like their kind of outfits and their proportions. It seems a little bit off. Maybe that's what they're going for. I know. There's going to be things. I just didn't particularly think it was great. It wasn't, like I said, Kino anime is never going to do anything bad, but it wasn't outstanding for me. And I think the wings are too short on the dragon. I don't know. It's just a thing for me. Is I didn't particularly like the dragon forms. As their human forms, they were fine. They were just a little bit too waifu-y, I guess I would call them. And it wasn't really an outstanding thing for me.
Well, I would say the character design is, well, I would say, like, in terms of like character design and general animation design, because I think will get a strong score from me because nothing else looks like it.
Sure.
Like, it literally, like, it's basically unique, which is like automatically strong points for me. That's like one of the reasons like King's ranking is like which is like airing currently as we're like recording this.
Yeah, I've seen something.
That looks only like itself.
Yeah.
There's nothing, like, it's instantly identifiable. And with most other shows, there's sort of like like some sort of like school of art, of character design or art design where you can sort of fit it into. So you think of, like, for example, like Code Geass or whatever. That was like very of its time sort of and again with Trigun earlier on, it's like it's very like late 90s in this design. This one is sort of like timeless in the fact that if someone said to you it's 2022, I'd be like, it could be from 2022 or it could be from 2017, which in terms of like media, 5-year span is like, it's enough that there can be like shifts in like what is popular in terms of like the animation standard or the design standard of something. So I think that basically will come down to, like, on a technical level, it's basically like a A++ for that. Now it will come down to a personal preference, which is another reason, like with King's ranking, do I love it? The design, I would say I do enjoy it, but I wouldn't say it's like my favorite ever. With this one, I felt like KyoAni were coming off like a run where everything kind of looked like, how do you say this? Kind of looked like they had a style, and you could instantly identify something as a KyoAni show. This one, actually, I don't think you can identify it as a KyoAni show straight away in terms from its animation, from its humor, almost. Instantly. That's what I actually love about KyoAni, is that kind of irreverent humor where it's sort of like slightly absurdist, but sort of couched in like otaku-y anime stuff, where they're making like, it's like quite silly, but silly from like a, you know, like an anime, video games and manga kind of perspective, as opposed to like silly in a like what we get from like the West, which is like, it's going to be traditionally like
Simpsons or something.
The Simpsons or like South Park, or where it's like, or you know, where it's kind of like the points that they hit on and reference are like are kind of like refreshingly like novel, you know, and it's not like a self-contained thing where in a lot of anime they'll do this thing where it's like they'll mention that manga or that anime, but they'll never they'll actually never like explicitly like reference it. It's just called that. They do it with countries as well. Oh, he's from a country that does, you know, that kind of stuff. Like you know, like name checking that stuff. It's like it's pretty fun sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a show for I think you know, for otaku will, you know, there are shows for everybody and there are shows that made for stuff. As far as for the animation stuff, I often find that to be true with Mob Psycho, is that it has a very, like, as soon as you watch it, you're like, okay, I know where this is from, right?
Yeah, that's like another perfect example.
But some people, even though they watch it, they don't particularly like that style, right? And, you know, there are times when I love Mob Psycho, by the way, and, you know, anything that one's done. But that being said, there are stuff where I'm like, you know what I mean? It's not my favorite, but it is very recognizable. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that's I almost like inherently sort of like predisposed to be in favor of something that looks different from everything else. Now, not saying like in saying that like my favorite anime they have like comps. So it's not like the be all and end all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like Miss Kobayashi a lot. It's not I wouldn't say it's one of my top 10 favorite anime though, but one of its strengths I think is actually its like uniqueness. Now, that brings us on to the characters and the plot thing. And I kind of like this in the fact that it's following Trigun. So I get to reference Trigun when I say this. I think all of the strengths of Trigun are basically all from a character and story perspective are copy and paste from Miss Kobayashi Dragon Maid.
Wow.
As in, you live and die with the characters.
Okay.
And the plot is going to basically be like a week-to-week thing. Now, I will say that, like Trigun, from what you said in the previous episode, there is a larger plot as they flesh out.
As they add more characters.
Yeah, well, the characters are kind of like basically there's one more to come in, right? In terms of like the cast. But what we start to have is like, there's a lot of references to this other world. We get that world fleshed out in terms of like, one, it's sort of like it's a high fantasy world, and there's like factions within that world, and we don't get that yet, so I'm not going to spoil that. We don't need to talk about that. But like, it does have like a kind of like a through line. But essentially, it's a lot of just like kind of like fun visits to this kind of like wacky bunch of characters, which is in essence what I was getting from Trigun in the first 3 episodes. Now, obviously, how they deliver that is very different.
Yeah.
Right. But in terms of like, if I was doing it structurally, or like semiotically, I guess they're very similar in terms of like in terms of like how they present their 23 minutes of animation.
Yeah, I agree. I think Trigun's probably more of the joke is probably, even though they have little jokes, is probably Trigun's a full episode joke to some degree, like a setting, as opposed to this, which they go to different places, right? And there's little different settings. But I get what you said. Like, it's the same thing. Like, this show is very much digestible. Like, I almost call it, like, in some parts, it's almost like a meme or a GIF. You know, this would be a Vine show, even though Vine's dead. But you know what I mean? TikTok show. So the idea that you could have these little kind of, 2-minute, 3-minute vignettes that, set up, punchline, joke. And the reason it works is because of the characters' inherent likability and the situation they're in, as opposed to having kind of a larger investment in the story.
I gotta say, when Kana called Miss Kobayashi a cuck, I thought that was a line.
That was a good one. I also like the dead fish eyes.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I would kind of disagree. I would kind of push back on you on the VA performances, especially for Kana. I think that person does that kind of like sort of like monotoned child really, really well. And I think it works for that character quite well. As in, like, Kana is sort of like the breakout star from the show in terms of like popularity. She kind of broke the internet for that period in time. There's always that one character that just kind of like explodes for whatever reason. Again, she really transcended the show in terms of like, I think she might be like one of the most popular anime characters on MAL, like in terms of member favorites. And to do that in a 5-year span is like quite impressive, because traditionally like those characters that are up near the top are generally like the the Light Yagamis and the Lelouch v Britannia.
Well, it's like Maid from Konosuba, right? Was it Maid, the fire lady?
Oh, yes.
She also kind of broke out. She's not kind of the main character to some degree, but she really broke out. She was very, big for a while. You see a lot of stuff for her. Yeah, it might just be my inherent distaste for that kind of character. I generally don't like that kind of character in my things. And it's like I said, I don't think anything's wrong with it. It's just not my cup of tea. Like I said, it's totally believable, well animated. She's doing justice to the character. It's just not my like, ooh.
So from characters and stories again, characters and plot. Again, the plot is what you have. It's basically episodic, and within the episode, the kind of episode itself, there's like several basically like segments.
Yeah. Set pieces.
There are like later on, I think that will come. That feels more more like whole in its like, because basically we start having like podding occurring, as in like Fafnir and her co-worker will pod up, and it's all about MMORPG and like going to the cons to get or like downloading the latest patches or taking a day off work because a new release came out. That they'll do their thing, and Lukoa will team up with her familiar, we'll just call him Shota, which is funny in itself. And then Kana will go to school, and obviously that will be its own thing. And then it feels like when it cuts to that, it feels a bit more like, it feels less kind of random.
Okay.
For better or for worse, because like I don't actually have a problem with the randomness. As I said, if you're hitting me with jokes and I find the jokes funny, then I'm going to be enjoying it. If you hit me with a bunch of jokes and I don't find it funny, obviously mileage is going to reduce considerably. But I did enjoy the first 3 episodes in terms of jokes, and it kind of made me want to watch more, which is like exactly what I kind of that's the test, right? That's the test, right? Coming into it. So before we move on to the final parts, the final kind of like the free session, the free talk session, I guess. You agree with me on the plot and the characters thing? Like,
yeah, I definitely agree. Like, you made a reference to Family Guy before, and it's definitely one of those things. Like, some jokes I thought were funny. I actually laughed out loud. There are some jokes where I was like, roll my eyes, and there are some jokes that just didn't hit me at all. Like, I remember we paused it at one point to admire the nice long bath that she got in the apartment. And that's not at least for me, if I'm noticing the bath, that's probably not a great sign for the story characters.
Well, I will say now, that sounds kind of weird, but we live in a country where there are no bathtubs, essentially.
Or they're super small.
Extraordinarily rare. Or they're not like this big, deep bathtub. And it was basically a moment of like, oh, wouldn't it be nice?
Wouldn't it be nice?
And it just so happened. Then the bath scene sort of unfolded, but it was hard not to like dwell on the bath. But I think a lot of that was like personal bias.
Sure, I mean it's a local theme. And like I said, it was some of the stuff I thought was great. I'm not quite sure. I didn't know if this was supposed to be. I don't know where this. Okay, how do I say this? I don't know if this is supposed to be a romance or not. Like, she's very clear at the beginning. She's sexually attracted to her, and she really wants her, and she loves her, and stuff like that. And sometimes you get, like, Three's Company's vibes, where it's just like, like, we're just roommates, and we're hacking around, and, look at my weird roommate. And other times, it really does look like it's it is a romance. And not that I'm against the romance, I'm just, it threw me off sometimes with those tone shifts. And I'm like, am I supposed to be, empathizing with this couple and thinking, oh, look at this great love story? Or are they just friends hacking around and, oh, look at, she's a dragon and this girl's a shut-in and, oh, look at the cool things they do. The tone for me sometimes shifted and it's like, what's going on? Like, Family Guy, for example. Sometimes that happens there too.
Well, I would say I don't want to get too much into it, but I would say if you're going into the show or waiting for something sexual to happen, you can keep on waiting. Essentially, the romance is more like, romance is probably the wrong kind of word, but we'll say the love story with a capital L is more like the idea of like building an intimate relationship with somebody. But by intimate, I mean kind of closeness as opposed to like intimate as in like the physical sense.
I was looking for something sexual. I just didn't know if this was a love story in terms of look at my wacky friend and me trying to get by in this world, or if it was supposed to be like a love story. You know what I mean?
Well, as I said, that can play out as it will. I guess that's like a thread. That's like a thread which could carry potential future watchers into later episodes. They want to see. I'm kind of curious, like how they play that, right?
Yeah.
So I won't say because would be spoiling if someone has just done 3 episodes or they're waiting to hear our sort of take on it. So moving into the final section, a couple of quick things. They're not really like kind of anywhere. One, I think this is just key on Annie in general. I think they draw emotion physically so well compared to like almost any other studio. Like I don't need to be told this character is having a moment of introspection. They can draw it very, very well. They just do eyes exceptionally well. I had to like comment on that because I caught that a few times where like Tori would have a moment when she's just like thinking or something like that, or and this kind of extends to other shows that they've done where it's just like, god damn it, they like mastered like physical direction and this is going to be weird because it's not an understated show, but those moments are quite understated. And the show is like completely the opposite. It's an overstated show, and that's kind of like the humor for where it comes from. But that is like very impressive technically. 2, I had said at the beginning of the episode that one of those characters, and you have seen them, made my top 10 Mal character favorites. Could you guess who it was?
This is a complete guess, folks. I'm gonna say Faramir.
Faramir. He just wandered in from Lord of the Rings.
Hey.
No, it's Toru.
Oh, okay.
I think Toru's. I don't think it's like really had a chance to sort of marinate yet in 3 episodes. I think she's an exceptionally sweet character, and by sweet I mean like, she's a sweet person. And as the show progresses, like, it's weird because they're a dragon,
right?
But Toru's character is really, really like human. And when this show is set, when it's so kind of like slapsticky and like hitting you with jokes and like situation, some of the most memorable moments for me are like her. Again, this is a weird choice of words, but more human moments.
Sure,
we kind of got a little bit with her in the bed when she was having like that kind of like flashback to her fighting with humans. But yeah, I like her. She's a really sweet character. Like obviously, Kano is like generally regarded as like the outstanding character, but I think Toru deserves more love personally. Anything else?
Well, here are my couple observations that I think are just kind of wacko. First of all, it reminded me a lot of Konosuba in terms of the makeup of the group so far. Now, it's a very different kind of thing, but in terms of the reactions between the group, a little bit like, I don't know if you're going to kill me for this, but Toru reminded me of Aqua, but... Aqua? Yeah.
Well, Aqua's the best girl on the show.
Well, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that she reminded me of the same kind of characterization. One thing I did appreciate about it is that they made the well, I like the fact that the dragons were dragons, as opposed to it's just a, you know, whack. Like sometimes they have things that are just, it's kind of like the nudge, wink, wink of the story, the conceit, and they're not really acting as dragons. But I like the fact that some of them are a little bit like, you know, kill them all, you know, or something like that. That they did act a little bit like that. I did appreciate that. So, and you know, once again, like some of the things, it did really feel like Japan. I know that's weird to say, but it did. Like, you know, the office spaces and the
crowded commute to work.
Commute and the drinking, how you go out and have those little bar drinking sessions and everybody gets smashed. It is kind of very Japanese that way. So those are things I just randomly picked up before we give our final up.
Well, the last one, we got struck by an earthquake halfway through episode 2 and 3. That was like, it was weird because like, if I was engrossed enough in the show that could an earthquake, a dragon caused earthquake happen? You know, like possibly. I guess the Earth dragon was itching when we were.
It's one of those 4D experiences.
Yeah, it took me a couple of seconds to kind of comprehend. I was like, oh no, we're shaking.
Yeah, we're not shaking, not the TV.
And it was it was a long enough one, but you know, it was kind of minor. I would be surprised if we got over a 5.
Yeah, there's probably like a 3.
So we will find out, I guess, when we read the seismology report.
Yeah,
is that the word? The seismic graphic, or I'm sure there's a word for it, and
whenever it's in the
newspaper
tomorrow.
All right, so we move on to the final part, which would be like the red light, green light we were talking about earlier on. Would I carry on, or would I park it and leave it there, never to be touched again? Obviously, like Naraku in the previous episode, I did continue on past 3, and I watched it again. And looking back at it now, part of me kind of wants to keep going. Now, am I going to commit to watching the whole 12-episode season? I'm not sure. But there are, like, things to come that I want to see. So I think I will continue watching, but at a more leisurely pace.
The fanboy here. I wouldn't mind watching it with someone else, but would I watch it by myself? Probably not. It's inoffensive to me in terms of I don't hate it, but it doesn't really do it for me either in terms of the situation and the jokes, and you know, I laugh probably once or twice an episode, and that's not enough for me. So I would say watchable with somebody else, but probably not. I'll stop with myself.
And that is us for this episode. We will be back again to do the 3-episode test with a singular, another anime in the semi-near future. Until then, fair listeners, bang bang.